My next guest paved the way in stand-up comedy for a whole generation of comedians. The original iconoclast, the great political satirist, has his own show on the Monitor Channel. Please welcome the wise one, Mort Sahl. Man, there's something comforting about that sweater, you know?
That's my uniform.
Yeah.
That's what... Well, this is interesting hearing you talk about Hollywood, Dennis.
Yeah.
It's my hometown, even though I feel like I got a green card. And, but you know, when I started in the business, I thought meeting actresses was really like the bonus.
Yeah.
You know, I used to say only date actresses and other female impersonators. You know, but all the girls I'd meet out here, you go to dinner with them, and they'd say, an Italian restaurant in Beverly Hills, and I'd say, what's your life about? And they'd say, I want to be an actress. And I'd say, why? And they'd say, I have something to say. And then I'd say, what do you have to say? And they'd say, I want to be an actress. And then we wouldn't have time to go around again, so we'd leave, you know. That's how I started, with women, that is.
Well, it sounds like a really healthy thing you have with gals there. You know what, I loved your autobiography, or Heartland. I don't know, what do you call Heartland? Your manifesto, or?
It was an autobiography written in the middle, before you knew how it would pan out. Mm-hmm. It was written in the middle of life. And the publisher said, I want to get a guy who's sure he's right, and then we'll see if he's right. So the book was, it was like a confessional.
Yeah, I love the old stories about when you were starting. You know, this man was on the cover of Time magazine. Now, for a comedian, which to some extent is like the bastard child of this industry, or we were in the past, to think about a comedian on the cover of Time, that blows my mind. You had the ears of kings, you know, you were ran with, well, I find it fascinating you were part of that Kennedy conclave.
The great thing is who you get to meet, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, when you were talking to Sean about Hollywood, reminded me, I was at the White House in the first Reagan term, to do a show. Mm-hmm. And for the Prime Minister of Israel at that time, who was fond of saying that the American Secretary of State, that was Begin then, Begin would say that, although they're much alike in their, Shamir and Begin, he's a protege of his, he said that Kissinger was fond of throwing him, if he was drowning 20 feet from shore, he'd throw him a 15-foot rope and then say he'd met him more than halfway. It was that kind of evening, you know. So
Begin anyway, is so Begin.
They were talking about Hollywood, and Bush was talking about Hollywood being wild, and President Reagan said, it's just an 8 o'clock go to bed with the chickens town, and George Bush said, quote, some chickens. So you see, that's what you get to hear.
What were you doing at a Reagan function, for God's sake?
Well, he invited me.
Yeah, but you're the last holdout there, man. You're the liberal pinup girl. You can't
Well,
go
it's
back
funny
there
about him. You know, you can get very tired holding the door open for the liberals. You know, I keep getting calls now about the virtue of Oliver Stone's movie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad everybody took an interest in President Kennedy 28 years later. They may have noticed he hasn't been around the office recently. Boy, I'm telling you, you know, but you know, going back, and this is something you can really identify with, Dennis, the time that I was reading the Warren Report on the stage, or holding up a picture of Ruby shooting Oswald and saying, this is a picture of Oswald being shot while he's being guarded by 123 members of the Dallas police force, or 124 if we count Ruby. So, there was nobody around then.
Well, you know, that stuff's volatile. You got to watch that stuff.
Yeah,
you pay your price when you make points like that.
By the time the crowd comes around to it, it's time to move on. Don't you find that?
Well, you feel it took 28 years, or do you just feel it was such a sad event in our lives that it took a half-life of that long before we could confront it?
Well, a lot of it came back to me. Last night I was looking at Ted Koppel. What were you doing that for? I have a satellite dish. I see you at 10:30 out of Denver.
Yeah.
So I went over to Koppel at 11:30, and the head, they were talking about the Warren Report, and they quoted Earl Warren, who once said, with a remark aimed at me at that time, he said, if they have any new evidence, let them come forward. And at that time, we felt that we were kind of fond of the old evidence because it had kept a virginal quality since they didn't look at it the first time. So you know, it's like that.
Now, when you say he aimed that statement, are you sure it wasn't a second Supreme Court judgment behind it? Well, now, I like the movie. What's your take on JFK?
The movie?
Yeah. You were.
I thought,
take
well,
it
it's
you weren't
interesting.
fond of it.
You know, the press is after him because they don't object to what he has to say so much as his right to say it.
Right.
That's really what's in question. But, you know, you have to be objective. I kind of think of myself as an artist, you know, and if that doesn't sound too pretentious to y'all, I'm not really a political figure. I took politics into the theater. I wouldn't try to go the other way at all. I don't think Oliver Stone is overwhelmingly talented. I think that a lot of the picture is very corny, and just because it absolves me, I'm not going to be selfish and say, therefore, it's wonderful. Kevin Costner, you know, Garrison is like an intellectual. They've got Kevin Costner like he fell off a turnip truck. You know.
Boy, you know, I've read a little on this subject, and you know, I'm not a Kennedy or Kennedy assassination but
no.
I think that Kevin Costner painted Jim Garrison in, you know, what some would say a good light. I mean, I didn't get a hayseed off him at all. I thought when he was waxing eloquent at the end, you know, remember your fallen king. I thought it was kind of touching.
The real speech, believe me. You know, I was there. I was on the staff of the DA for 5 years down there. I lived there. It's much richer. It's much richer than anything you could synthesize. It's sad to say the picture doesn't credit the 3 DAs who prosecuted the case, Shambra, Alcock, and Oser. Funny thing happened in the courtroom, you know. You always got to be ready for the jokes. The government doctor who did the autopsy on Kennedy, Dr. Fink, spelled all his words for the stenographer, you know. He'd spell a word, and he'd spell a word. About the 8th day, he said, the president was wounded in the occipital protuberance. The girl said, can you spell that for me, please? And he started to spell it, and he got hung up. He didn't know how many C's were in occipital. And everybody began to laugh in the courtroom, and Judge Haggerty brought his gavel down, and he said, I won't have you laughing at Dr. Fink. He's been spelling for 8 days. This is the first word he's missed.
And I'm surprised they don't have a separate key for occipital.
So,
Just,
that's their...
just hit it and move on, you know. What was it like working at the Hungry Eye back when, man? It must have been exciting. That was like the ephemeral days of stand-up in this
Well, we
country.
had a great boss, you know, Enrico Banducci.
Yeah.
You know, he was an artist himself. He played the violin and he sang opera. And San Francisco was a place you could do something different and people wouldn't condemn you for it. You
Still
know?
can.
And well,
That's
it also
still a
became
pretty liberated
it
town.
became a political town after that. You know, with Ramparts magazine and all. And then there was a pall over it because of the AIDS thing and all. Got to be, you know, and all. The economy is in Southern California. You know, I'm working all around the country now, you know, with the news show.
Yeah, you're doing
a show for the
on
Monitor
Channel, Mort Sahl.
And the Monitor Channel is a new news channel, full-service, 24-hour news channel. I'm doing a variety show for them, which is kind of an anomaly, but it's based on the news. And we're around the country, and there's a lot out there. There's a lot between, you know, L.A. and New York.
What's the format, the Heartland? What's the format of the show, though? What's it about?
The monologue, then the news. We use news clips and freeze them. And then we ask questions, and then we deal with it on film and with guests, like what happened to romance in America, or what happened to the movies, or how did we go from John Wayne to Billy Crystal, or how did we go from Paul Robeson to Arsenio Hall, or, you know, we go like that. We ask questions, and then we... you know.
How did George Bush go from being George Bush King to George Bush might not get elected again? What do you think? Is it possible? Can he really botch this?
Yeah,
this great goodwill he has?
Well, you know what we used to say about him, Dennis, was at the Republican convention, which I attended, by the way, at the convention, you remember when Charlton Heston gets up and shows the film about him being a war hero? And he says Bush was shot down over the Pacific, and he's in the Navy. And he said he was floating in the water, and at the time of Jeopardy, his entire life flashed before him, but he wasn't in it. That kind of sums up George Bush. I think it's the Democrats that could win it for him.
Who's gonna be the Democratic candidate?
I have no idea. You know, neither today.
I hear Mondale. He's got a campaign slogan. I can't possibly get stomped any worse than last time. This has been Mort Sahl. The show is Mort Sahl Live on the Monitor Channel. We'll be right back after this commercial.